Finn followed Charles into the company building. Seeing him with Charles, everyone at the front desk was stunned for a moment before glancing in the direction of the two men. Their gazes weren't friendly or hostile, just extra curious. Tristan Entertainment was situated within this building, and employees often fancied the president and anything related to him. Therefore, it's not unusual for these ladies to recognize even a small-time celebrity like Finn. The elevator stopped at the top floor. There was one main difference between the front desk ladies and Charles' secretary. The ones downstairs couldn't control their eyes or mouths, while the secretary here expressed no curiosity or suspicion, if she even felt any. The look she gave Finn was incredibly ordinary as well. There's a reason why some people could work in higher positions and others could not. I have work in the morning. Over there are some magazines and a computer, and if you need anything, go talk to Anna. You just have to stay in the office. Charles sat erect at his desk while Secretary Anna immediately presented him with coffee. Of course, she didn't forget Finn's portion either. Charles spent the entire morning taking care of documents on his computer. Apart from occasionally sipping his coffee and glancing at the nearby couch where Finn was playing on the iPad by himself, Charles didn't say a word and dedicated his attention to work. Finn simply went online to look up some information. The first thing he searched for was information on Tang Fiennes' death. The movie star who died of a heart attack last month had already been buried, and, as his will desired, his money and property were all donated to charity. Countless people were sad to see a genius leave the world. It was a peculiar feeling to see news about his own death. Finn suddenly felt invigorated. He's going to use this body and the experience he's attained in the past 37 years to climb to the top again. He then looked up some news on Tristan. The man was handsome and naturally dashing. And, from the piercing eyes alone, Finn could tell that this person wasn't as simple as his appearance suggested. Almost forgetting to look up Charles, Finn quickly searched him up. Charles was a tycoon from a well-off family in Europe. He's a bit of a mysterious person and was currently collaborating with Tristan on entertainment investment. Finn felt that something was off, the feeling usually present when two plutocrats collaborated together. These two probably aren't just businessmen, are they? He hoped this charming man was just a simple businessman. If Charles really dealt with the criminal underworld, then that meant Finn couldn't afford to offend him. He raised his head to eye Charles, and the latter just so happened to look back. Charles generously beamed him an enchanting smile. Bored? He closed the documents and stood up. Weaving out from behind the desk, Charles strode toward Finn. And said in a husky voice, "You're hungry, I bet. Let's go grab something to eat." The Tristan group had its own diner. The place was incredibly large, covering a total of 2 floors. One floor was where regular employees ate, and the other was reserved for parties and special events. It was around noon, the time when most people had just finished their morning duties. Quite a number of workers chose to purchase their meal from the restaurant. There wasn't a set menu, and the restaurant was separated into 2 areas. One was the buffet area, where a large variety of food, ranging from Western to Eastern food, was available and free for all employees to eat. The only thing the company didn't provide was alcohol, coffee and regular beverages were served. On the other side was the à la carte area. If you wanted something more gourmet or would like to dine in a quieter area, this was the better option. Stepping out from the VIP elevator with Charles, Finn could feel pairs of eyes staring at them. The people working at Tristan tend to dress fashionably, so he couldn't tell the celebrities apart from the office workers. Charles took Finn straight to the à la carte area. They were the only ones here right now, and soon the waiter came over to bring them menus. Charles ordered quickly, and the waiter left with the menus. The soft midday sunlight passed warmly through the windows and left Finn with a gentle, quiet feeling. Charles tilted his upper body slightly, his gaze dropping to the other man's face. With a smile hovering on the corners of his lips, Charles voiced lazily, "I have eyes that can see through hearts as well." "I wasn't the only one you've said that to," Finn guilelessly unveiled the man's little trick. Charles burst into a hearty laugh, attracting some attention. "Charles, what's making you so happy?" If Charles' voice was deep and sonorous, then the voice of the man who just spoke was like the night, cold yet enticing. Finn turned his head toward the source of the sound. It wasn't uncommon to see Tristan in his own building. Upon seeing him, Finn could understand why this body's previous owner was so infatuated with the man. People tend to be attracted to these mysterious types like swarms of flies. Thankfully, that didn't include Finn. "Tristan, you've got horrible timing. Though I have to thank you, if you hadn't introduced him to me, I wouldn't have gotten to know such a charming person." Charles greeted Tristan, the two appearing to be close friends. "Oh, is that right?" Only now did Tristan bat a single eyelash at Finn. Tristan directed an impersonal judgmental gaze at him, and Finn smiled back politely. Tristan was taken aback but quickly recovered his frosty demeanor. "That's all the more reason for you to treat me to dinner, then." Tristan walked over as the waiter hurried to bring over another chair. Finn drank his water in silence. Tristan and Charles, looking for something to say, began chatting casually. The topics of their conversation had no bounds, shifting from the current state of the economy to the entertainment company's newest investments. Finn tactfully did not intervene. In this kind of situation, choosing to listen respectfully was the best approach. "Tang, what do you think?" Not allowing Finn to keep to himself, Charles with one sentence let the focus fall to him. Tristan acted like it was only natural and also turned to him. Finn had just spaced out a short time ago and wasn't listening to the contents of their conversation at all. He only faintly remembered Charles bringing up a new movie and a little bit about the newcomer's training. Pretending to be better than one actually was in order to impress others wasn't a good idea. He put down the glass cup that was coincidentally at his lips. Finn smiled apologetically, looking toward Charles with a slightly pleading gaze. He knew that powerful and accomplished men would readily fall for that kind of expression. "Oh. I was spacing out a bit earlier, so if you don't mind, could you repeat yourself?" Finn said with a soft tone. Instead, by openly admitting his mistake and looking a little embarrassed, it would actually cause people to have a good impression of him. Charles really ate it up. "My darling Tang, your confused expression is causing my heart to skip beats." "Tristan, you don't want Finn anyways, so why don't you give him to me?" Charles glanced aside at the Tristan, the very intrusive third wheel. The latter was at that point sitting with a bored expression. Upon hearing Charles's words, he only laughed indifferently. As Tristan glanced at Finn, his tone was a little cold. "That would be his honor." Finn knew that Tristan despised him, but he didn't think that it was to this degree. "Actually, it is my honor to have a wonderful boss like President Liu." Finn countered with a sentence, smiling and not displaying too much emotion. Charles just acted like he hadn't seen anything and suggested that after the meal they play pool together in the afternoon. "Sure." Tristan readily accepted. Finn laughed coldly and sighed. Just wait, if Tristan dared to match him on the pool table, he'd definitely beat this condescending bastard until he was on his knees begging for forgiveness. If there were 2 floors reserved for dining in the building, then naturally there'd be a place for entertainment and leisure. With billiards being a hobby favored by a lot of men, pool tables were certain to be present. Although Finn wanted to give Tristan a lesson, the first match was unfortunately between Charles and Tristan instead. Of course. As an outdated idol with no power or status, what else could he expect than to serve as audience? Though in all honesty, neither of the other 2 men were experts, only Charles seemed more used to the sport as he had grown up overseas. A little thirsty after having watched them for some time, Finn glanced at the 2 CEOs currently immersed in the game and walked out to grab something by himself. Outside the billiard room was a coffee machine. He placed his cup under the spout and waited for the coffee to drip. While doing so, another man holding a cup walked in his direction. Out of good conduct and habit, Finn politely greeted the fellow with a smile. "It's you?" The man looked back at him with mild astonishment, his perplexed expression showing an odd mix of distaste and pity. Finn had expected that people who knew the original owner of his current body would show up all the time. Retrieving his coffee and taking a sip, Finn found it a tad bitter and so added another spoon of cream. He then took his time to turn around and give the man a faint smile. "Please excuse me. I've suffered a concussion and forgot a lot of my past. It seems we knew each other before. Is it all right if we introduced ourselves a second time?" Finn scanned the person in front of him, discerning at first glance that he was of a first-rate upbringing. He wasn't handsome but did emanate a gentlemanly charm. Charles also seemed a gentleman, but underneath that guy, it was obvious that a thug lurked. "You lost your memory?" A little shocked, the man stared at Finn for some time before uttering with a smile. "No wonder. You've changed quite a bit from before." "Finn." He reached out his hands. Finn wasn't keen on making a new friend, but at least this way he could avoid creating a new enemy. "Sutton." The man shook the hand generously. "How's your health?" "I've fully recovered now. My memory's probably going to stay this way forever, but it's still better than ending up with dementia," Finn said with a hint of self-mockery. He withdrew his hand and started to leave. Sutton grinned at Finn's sense of humor. He followed and asked, "Are you alone?" "No, Tristan and Charles are playing billiards inside." "Oh." Sutton nodded. "What a coincidence. I'm accompanying someone for the same reason." And who was he accompanying? Finn found out soon enough. A young man dressed entirely in white stepped from the restroom toward them. An almost imperceptible shadow crossed over his face when he saw Finn and Sutton chatting together, but his expression maintained a lovely smile. Finn looked at the youth in white, who could be counted as rather pretty, despite for the fact that he looked a bit thin and fragile. Dressed on those loose white clothes, he looked particularly delicate. Gab. Sutton's light response took Finn by surprise. Not out of jealousy or anything, but Finn was vaguely disappointed with Tristan's taste. Finn placidly drank his coffee on the side. Sutton's probably the rival CEO of Tristan's entertainment company. How did they all know each other? There actually weren't many people in the upper class of modern society. Even fewer were in the entertainment industry. Therefore, it wasn't a rare sight for presidents of two entertainment companies to know each other. They might even work together for mutual benefit. There was no such thing as a permanent friendship, after all, just profit. Leaning against the back of the pool table, one arm on his waist and the other holding a cup of coffee, Finn watched the other four as an outsider. Finn knew that life often contained more drama than even television shows, but he couldn't avoid feeling helpless after coming across such a cheesy setup so early in this reborn life. Charles was in a battle with Sutton. Compared to Tristan, whose skill level was a match for Charles, Sutton was simply being slaughtered. Ha, looks like I'm the winner. Charles had defeated Sutton with an admirable score of 137. Charles then busted into a couple of dance moves before making an elaborate turn to point at Tristan and Sutton. He grinned. According to the rules we've agreed upon, now I have the right to ask a favor from you both. As long as you don't have me kiss Tristan, anything's fine. Sutton forced a smile. Charles, who liked playing billiards O'Sullivan style, smiled mysteriously. He then walked straight to Finn, who was isolated in the corner and ignored by everyone at this point. Charles laughed heartily. Finn seemed to have grasped this man's personality, which was a bit wild and self-absorbed. He might maintain a calm and gentlemanly behavior most of the time, but just turn around and he'd be a rogue with a black sense of humor. Finn was slightly disappointed. He had wanted to make Tristan sweat a little on the pool table, but then again, there'd be more chances for that in the future. Even if it was because of something the original owner of his body had done or for some other reason, Finn couldn't accept the condescending attitude Tristan had toward him. Fighting back when bullied had always been Finn's motto. I heard you fell into the ocean because of a quarrel with Gab during a movie shoot. And that the two of you fell off together. Charles brought up the incident out of the blue, his eyes emitting a sly glow. Do you think it's my fault as well? Finn laughed. He sipped on the wine and continued, without rushing himself, since it seems I was the one to blame it on, I'm now suffering the consequences. Charles pursed his lips into a smile, staring at the man having dinner so elegantly in front of him. It's that it is such a pity. Tristan's decided to save an employee from another company instead of you. When Tristan first stepped into the entertainment industry, your mother helped him once. I'm sure you had something to do with that. Charles picked up his wine glass, the red liquid glowing as blood under the light. In other words, Tristan was an ungrateful bastard too? But what was Charles trying to get at with bringing this up? I've already told Tristan about changing your manager. A new one shall be here tomorrow morning. Finally, some good news. Finn was pleased with Charles' efficiency. As Finn didn't need to go to work the next day, he could sleep until he woke up naturally. It was 10:45 a.m. when Finn went downstairs and saw his manager sitting in the living room. She looked to be in her early 20s, as if she had just recently graduated from college. She even had a pair of large black framed glasses propped on her face. Hi. You are Finn, right? I am your manager, you can call me Sharon. Finn gave a friendly smile and extended his hand forward. It's nice to finally meet you. I'm Finn. Sharon rushed to return the handshake, slightly embarrassed. First, please excuse me for staring at you. It's just that you are very different from what I had imagined. Until their meeting today, she had thought of him as nothing but a pretty face. When she was assigned to Finn, all her coworkers had felt sorry for her, but now she knew she had hit the jackpot. You have a pair of beautiful eyes yourself, Finn laughed. Thank you for the praise. He smiled fondly. Finn's words and actions did not match his appearance. Sharon watched the man's tall, straight back and couldn't stop her heart from fluttering. Exactly who had told her that Finn was a foul-tempered, hard to manage, and stupid performer? The man standing in front of her was clearly a gentle and considerate future star full of charm. Sharon had a strong premonition that when this man reappeared in public, everyone would be in for a huge surprise. First, let me tell you about my current situation. I just have been discharged from the hospital and parts of my memory are still missing, so I will need a lot of help from you to avoid any misunderstandings. Sitting in front of the dining table, Finn sipped on a bit of his coffee, and indicated at the pen and paper laid beside him. Thankfully, although Sharon was new at her managerial duties, she still planned to perform to the full extent of her ability. She sat upright, then pulled a document from her bag. There aren't too many things lined up right now. The main one being that you'll need to finish that movie you were working on with Gab, the fashion gentleman. The two companies have discussed this already, and since the movie's already done filming for the most part, you can just do your scenes on your own. Then please arrange it as soon as possible. Okay. Sharon jotted it down and continued, as for the game shows, the main ones are 8230, reject all shows for now. Finn frowned. He didn't like shows because they usually revolved around making other people suffer. Sharon hesitated for a moment, then lifted her head and tried to reason with him. Some shows aren't that bad. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider it? One of them is called Dream Lover. Ever since it's aired, the reaction within the country has been rather phenomenal. The newest season of Dream Lover is undergoing some major changes, so the audience and a large number of media outlets are keeping their eyes on it. I think it'll be really useful for your comeback. Then please send me a copy with the details of show. Of course. Finn's flexibility made Sharon tremendously happy. Stubborn and unreasonable celebrities scared her the most. Other one's a talk show. You've been set as a regular of that show for the next couple weeks, and having some more exposure won't go ill in your favor. Oh, but I must remind you, it seems you have some history with the host of that show, Sharon pressed on. If you suddenly leave, the show producers will probably be really unhappy. That could affect your role in Dream Lover. It seems that they air on the same channel. Finn thought about it silently for a moment. Then he said, okay, keep this one too. If they weren't competing against each other, he'd try his best to work it out. Guess if it really doesn't go well, he'll just have to ask Charles. Lastly, the previous manager accepted an offer for you to be a minor character in a TV drama. Even though it's just a minor role, I saw the script and there is nothing wrong with the character's image. What kind of TV drama? This perked Finn's interest. It's a historical drama. Sharon flipped through the pages. A good tragic character. If performed well, he'd definitely catch a lot of attention and reaction from the audience. Finn nodded. He couldn't be picky about work at this point. He had no right. There's no special meaning in doing this role, but he would do it. At least it would bring him some income.